Okay, so I just wanted to talk about something that I've been thinking a lot about lately. When people find out about my story, the story of addiction with my husband Tom, I usually get the same question. I mean, there's lots of questions, right? But the one question that I get over and over and over again is how I did it. And I feel like there's no quick way to respond to that because there was so many things. There were so many tools that I used, and even though I wasn't aware of the actual tools I was using, but there were specific things that I was doing that was helping me move forward. The main thing though is something that I like to call what people call you fake it till you make it. So there was a specific time in my relationship with Tom where we were separated. I was living with my parents, Tom was living with his, and the kids had visitation rights, but they were supervised. So every time I would take the kids over to see him, I would put on this face. I mean, the whole way driving, I would pray that I wouldn't say anything that he didn't need to hear, that I would bite my tongue, that I wouldn't yell at him because realistically all I wanted to do was to punch him in the face, right? And and so I'd pray all the way there that I just would keep my cool. So when I got there, I would just put on this face and that I was okay. I just put on this whole, my body language was just, I'd talk to him like I would talk to anybody else, and I was kind and considerate, and I'd ask questions about him and how he was doing, and I'd play with the kids like I would normally do, and and then the visit would be over, and I'd get in the car and I'd cry all the way home, and I'd be like, who was that? Who was that person that just acted the way that they did? And there was even a specific time where I hugged him. I hugged him, which is so crazy to me. Um, and I'd get in the car and go, who was that person that just talked to him? And because that is not at all how I wanted to react towards him. But what he didn't know is I was going home and I was crying while I did everything. I'd cry while I brushed my teeth. I'd cry while I tried to read. I'd cry myself to sleep. I'd cry when I woke up. I'd cry while I was praying. Like everything I was doing, I was crying. But what I did start learning is the more often that I would have to see him, I'd have to put on this face that I was doing okay, that I wasn't hurting anymore, and that I was actually moving on. I mean, inside I really wasn't, but I thought I was. At first, it was I wanted to rub it in his face that I was okay, and look what you're doing, look what you're losing. But as I did that more and more often, it became real. And what I mean by that is I found my happiness by faking it. I started doing things like hanging out with my friends and taking my kids to the park, going shopping with my mom, things that I used to enjoy but had stopped doing because of my husband's addiction completely consuming my life. And I started working out, taking care of my body and my mind. I started going back to school. I started working again. All these things that I forgot that I wanted to do, I started doing. And it was because, I mean, it may sound like it was a terrible reason to start because I just wanted to show him that I was okay. Inside, I wasn't. But I faked it so much that I actually started to believe that I was happy, which then led me to actual happiness. And there's so many different opinions about whether that's a healthy way of doing it or not, because I've heard so many different opinions, and that's okay. I just wanted to hop on and explain my experience with it. It was one thing that I do tell other people, faking it till you make it, because in my situation it helped. It started to make me believe what I was doing, and started to lead me towards the things that I love to do and towards my happiness. And which then I was happy. So when I did see him, there was no faking it. And I wouldn't drive home crying. I was okay. I'd wake up and not cry, and I'd have a whole 24 hours of not crying, and then it became 48 hours, and then 72 hours, and then weeks. Like it just kept growing. And because I made a decision that I wanted to be happy. I didn't want to just pretend that I was happy. I actually wanted to be happy. And I wanted not only my husband to see that, but everybody around me. Because I had a lot of friends, I had a lot of family, but they were all so worried about me and the things that I was going to do, and how, just because of how miserable I was and how depressed I was, and it, making that faking till you make it to happiness, it was a game changer for me, because I faked it so much that I actually believed it, and it actually happened, which led to all of these amazing choices that I made. Yes, my marriage was still suffering. I was still very sad about that, but I was still able to find happiness outside of that. It didn't consume me anymore. I was happy with who I was and where I was going, because I had to know that I couldn't control him. I had to let go of him. And if he wasn't going to be happy, that's his choice. But I was going to be happy. I have control over me and the things that I do. And that was the decision that I made, is I chose my happiness. No matter what happened with our relationship, I knew that I was going to be okay. I knew that I was moving forward and in the right direction, because I found my happiness outside of his addiction, outside of loving an addict. It's still okay to be happy, and it's very possible to be happy. I know that because I've had the experience, and I'm extremely grateful for my saying of faking it till you make it to happiness, because that's what brought me here today. And I hope this video helps you in one way or another, and I know some of you will not agree with me, and that's okay. I'd like to hear your opinions anyway, so you can go ahead and comment below, and let me know how you guys find your happiness, and because I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear how you're doing it now, and maybe help some others to get them to find their happiness as well.